Hey everybody, this is Sabrina. Welcome back to my channel. So I am going to update my reading journal with my May reviews, and I'm excited to add in some more reviews. Again, having my friend Tracy help me get this template for my books was a definite game changer, and it makes things go so much quicker. It's now just a matter of getting time to catch up a little bit more. I would really love to get a little bit more current because obviously I'm finishing up May, so that makes me just about 3 months behind. So we'll see. I am also a little bit behind on reviews on Goodreads, but I can catch up on those hopefully soon. So I start off by counting 10 dots down and then putting a line, and I repeat that 3 more times. So that way I divide each section, each page into 4 sections. And so that way I can do 4 reviews for the different books. I started off the month with First Time Caller by B.K. Borison, and it was a wonderful romance about a woman named Lucy Stone who her daughter wound up calling into the radio station, and Aidan Valentine is the host, and he hosts a show about finding love, and then Lucy's daughter calls in, and it kind of just goes from there. Their phone call goes viral, and the radio show just brings out the best side of them, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. It was about the magic of simple joys, learning to have fun, and found family. So 4.75 stars on that book. Next up was the memoir from Mike Rowe, The Way I Heard It. I don't know how I stumbled on this book, but I absolutely love him. Like, he was fantastic narrating and being a part of Deadliest Catch and Dirty Jobs, and his voice is definitely captivating, like an original type of voice. And so when I saw that he had a memoir, I knew that I had to listen to it. But this memoir is a little bit different in that it has little stories from history, like, Charles Manson, Agatha Christie, and Bonnie and Clyde, but also personal information about his life, like when he all his money was taken from him by, I think, a scammer or something like it. It was stolen from him. So it really was just so interesting. I even compared it to those books, those 2-minute mystery books. That's what it kind of reminded me of when he was telling the stories about history and just layering everything together, plus adding in his life story. I just loved every minute of it. I'd love a part 2. I really loved it, and I may even wind up re-listening to it at some point. So that was a definite 5 stars book, and I, of course, had to squeeze in a little bit of the review on the bottom, but that's okay. It fit because I'm trying to avoid flip outs since this journal is getting very chunky, and I'm hoping it can make it to the end of the year. The next book was The Book of Doors, and that was a book that was recommended to me. It was definitely an interesting book and had like a whole interesting premise. So the main character is Casey Andrews, and she works in a New York bookstore, and her favorite elderly customer winds up passing away, and he has a book next to him, and she decides to take it. But it winds up not being an ordinary book. It's actually the Book of Doors, and will bring Casey into a new world. She's then approached by Drummond Fox, and he wants to warn her about these books. And that's kind of where the story takes off. There is a dash of mystery and romance and magic and fighting for the good in the world. And the ending made all the different story threads come together pretty nicely, because there was lots of different pieces that had to come together in order for everything to wrap up at the end. So it was definitely a good book. I would put it at 4.25 stars. For me, it felt like just a little slow at some points, but it could have been just me. But overall, a great book, and I'm glad that it was recommended to me. So after this book was May Luna, and I wound up listening to it on Kindle Unlimited. Again, this was another recommended book, and I think I wrote a short review because I am still upset with this book. I am upset that the ending, I feel like I'm going to start crying right now because the book just absolutely took me on such an emotional roller coaster, and I was pretty much heartbroken by the end of the book. It starts off, the whole thing is about a premise of a rock band, and they're doing an interview to celebrate the anniversary of an album being released. And we just get a collection of different stories, love stories, from Carter and Evie. And it's just hasty decisions with lasting consequences. And it's a powerful story, but it is gut-wrenching, utterly gut-wrenching. And yeah, I don't know. That's why I think my review was so short, because the book just really hurt my feelings. All right, moving on to James. I had to wait a really long time to get a hold of this book from the library, and I really think it should be required reading, and I felt like it was a masterpiece. I think there is mixed reviews on this book, but I really enjoyed Percival Everett's take on Huckleberry Finn from the perspective of Jim, the enslaved person, and I just really, really loved it. I thought it was an incredible reimagining. I just, every piece of it was so well done, and it just created a story of one man who rose above, chose to live, and took action no matter what the consequences were going to be, and I think that this is definitely going to be a favorite book. Speaking of favorite books, another memoir, Green Lights from Matthew McConaughey, which is another book I had to wait a very long time to get from the library, and I could totally see why. He narrated this book, and it was fantastic. His phrase is green lights, which is, seeing the positives in situations, and he has such a wise insight and perspective on life. And I just shook my hands because I totally put the review crooked. I'm not going to be able to get it up, but you know what? I'm going to move on. But anyways, the memoir was fantastic. I loved his perspective. I loved knowing about his young, wild adulthood and even childhood. It was just so interesting, everything that he went through. And yeah, he's just a really cool, fascinating, layered person, and I loved it. Next up was my favorite book of the month, which was Say You'll Remember Me by Abby Jimenez. I think I'm saying that right, but it's a beautiful love story between Samantha and Xavier. Xavier is a veterinarian, and Samantha brings her kitten in to get a checkup. There's a spark, and they decide to go on a date. The date's absolutely incredible. It goes on for hours and hours, and they both know that they've found something special, but Samantha has some family issues that she wants to deal with and tells Xavier to forget her. Well, that's where the story begins, and they have to make big decisions on what matters most in life, and it's a really great story of how love is the most important thing, and it is worth the work. I loved it. The only complaint I had was that they kept talking about the quote-unquote problem. It's like, let's let it go and move on, okay? We love each other. Let's keep going forward. All right, next up is Jane and Dan at the End of the World. This was definitely a quirky book with a very interesting premise. So Jan and Dan are celebrating their anniversary by going out to a fancy restaurant, been married for 19 years. They are in their 40s, and then the restaurant gets taken hostage. They become hostages, and the whole scenario reminds Jan about a book that she wrote, and she's left very confused, and Dan's not sure what's going on and whether to believe his wife, and Jan also wants to talk about getting a divorce. And I really loved how this book featured older characters and, the hard work that marriage takes, and it was just refreshing to see that because I feel like you don't see that often in books. So both characters realize the value in the life that they have built together and how each memory and each story is a treasure. So I really appreciated that aspect and this story in that, but it was definitely a quirky book, but overall a great book. And I was surprised at how long my review was because I actually had to do a flip out. I thought about decorating the part of the flip out that you can see, but I didn't at the time. I just decided to keep moving forward. But again, a great book. I definitely recommend it. I'm all for characters that are a little bit older, 40s, 50s, working on life and marriage and all the things. All right, moving on to the next set of pages. I need to draw my lines and then I can keep going with the reviews. May was definitely a great month for reading, and it was all about memoirs and romance. It's like I listened to all the memoirs and then I read all the romance. And right now I am reading The Other Side of Now. I'm thoroughly enjoying it. I can't wait to see how it all comes together. And I am listening to a middle grade book called Ravenfall. I'm in a little bit of an audiobook slump. So if you guys have any suggestions, I would absolutely love to have your suggestions. Next up was The Third Gilmore Girl from Kelly Bishop. I had never heard of her, and I haven't watched Gilmore Girls. I know. I need to watch it, and I really want to after listening to her memoir. She is another person that really has a fantastic perspective on life. Her perspective is that no matter what life threw at you, she would try to make the best of it and keep moving forward. And she believed that if the opportunity was meant for you, then it was meant for you. And if it wasn't, keep going. Like something else is meant for you. And I love that perspective. She was also a no-nonsense person, and it took a while for her to find her love story, and I loved it. I loved her whole multi-layered story. Then I read Savor It, which is a romance between Sage and Fisher. And I actually said in my review, I'd love to have a coastal farm with a bunch of animals just like Sage, because her farm sounds so amazing. And Fisher comes to this Oregon town to kind of help out with a restaurant and fix up his career. And it just goes from there. It's a small town romance, and they have spicy chemistry. And I just love Tara DeWitt. I love her. The only book I haven't really enjoyed from hers is The Co-op, but Savor It, I loved it. And I gave it 4.25 stars. And then after that, I listened to another memoir. This time it was Mark Hoppus's memoir, Fahrenheit 182. Goodness, you guys, May was such a fantastic month for memoirs, and I want to do some more research on finding good memoirs. But this one, I grew up listening to Blink-182, and I loved the behind the scenes. I felt like it was absolutely incredible. He really painted a very vivid picture of where he grew up and the challenges that he faced with his parents' divorce and how music was his outlet. He gave an honest, raw, and unfiltered look at the band, the friendships, struggles with friends, the different tragedies he had to face, and even his cancer diagnosis. To me, he left nothing untouched in the memoir, and I was actually surprised by his candor and how honest he was, and even talking about, mental health struggles because of the cancer diagnosis and just in general. So thoroughly enjoyed his memoir. Next up was Emily Henry's Great Big Beautiful Life, and I will be honest, I am an absolute fan of Emily Henry, but this was my least favorite book. I don't think it's a romance. I think it centers more on the two characters, Alice and Hayden, working on the memoir of Harris Margaret Ives. They discover that her story is much more complex, and she's very reluctant hesitant to let them in on the pieces. And that's where I think most of the story was centered on, figuring out Margaret's story, and a little side segment, I guess, was their romance. So it wasn't the best for me. I gave it 3.75 stars. Now, Promise Me Sunshine was my last book of the month, and I loved it. Definitely a top book for the year. Lenny is falling apart after losing her best friend, Lou, to cancer, and she has a live again list, but she can't bring herself to start the list, and she just makes ends meet by doing odd jobs babysitting. And this is where she meets Miles. Miles is the uncle of Ainsley. And Miles can clearly see what Lenny is struggling with and offers to help her with dealing with her grief and learning to live again. And I feel like that's what this book is all about: healing grief, learning to live again, and finding love in an unexpected way, and also knowing that it's okay to fall apart, especially if you have, an amazing person to let you fall apart. So I love this book because it's really centered on the friendship that these two characters build, and then it goes from there. I loved it. So 5 stars. Decided to just add some fun little die cuts to the bottom of the page. I actually probably could have made a whole page for Promise Me Sunshine, but again, wanted to conserve my time, so I just grabbed what I had on hand, a piece of vellum wood grain paper, and I'm just going to add that to the bottom, trim the little edge, and then again grab some die cuts. This is a book collection from the Cut Shop. It's all printable or clear sticker paper, and I use it all the time. So I grabbed what I had, and what I had was a 2-inch circle that I punched out with a cat on a stack of books, and then a bunch of clear stickers, and then I decided to grab some word phrase stickers to finish off my little stack. Nothing fancy, but I just wanted to add something to that page. So I cut out book tracker, and I feel the need to read. And then I have the clear stickers, and boom, it's done. So May is all wrapped up, and now I can start working on June and double checking, make sure where I'm at with all my book reviews. So really, overall, you guys, I'm just really proud of myself for how well I've stuck with reviewing every single book, and just moving forward. If this is my plan to do every single book, I'm doing a great job, and I'm excited to keep journaling. And yeah, I just love this. I hope you guys have enjoyed seeing my May reviews, hearing my thoughts on the various books, and sharing my thoughts. I love sharing my books with you, and I would appreciate a thumbs up or a subscribe if you are new to my channel. Have a great day. Bye.